Hello, this is Q with Mixherbs. How everybody doing today? Today I want to talk to you about, is 45 credit cards too many credit cards? We're going to dive into that topic today, and we're going to talk about credit cards in general, and we're going to get down to the nitty gritty on about how many credit cards is too many, and just the overall credit card industry. So let's hit that like button, hit that subscribe to my channel, and click on the notifications button, and we're gonna go deep into it. Credit cards. I was the reason this particular topic came up is because I was listening to the radio and I noticed they was talking about credit cards and utilization rates and everything and how many credit cards a person should have. It was just general questions like that. And I was shocked that the guy said they asked him how many credit cards he had, and he said he had 45 credit cards. So I was like, wow, 45 credit cards. What could I do with 45 credit cards? Is that good? That's bad? And this guy actually worked for like the credit, what is it? Credit Guru. I think it was the company's name, and it was on the radio talking about. And he said he know that is insane number of credit cards to have. And I think in back in the day, I think the total number I've had, the max I've had was 10 credit cards. So 45 is just insane. But I guess, he just wanted that many. He was just collecting, just having a deck of cards. I always call it when you get above 10 credit cards, you got a deck of cards. So you can use those cards, and I guess you can feel like some security if something come up. You got a credit card for this or for that. But man, I would think juggling that many credit cards is really, really, really tough, especially to keep up with it and have them on online and everything. So I think one of the things you got to look about is that I found out when I was researching this about credit cards, it's actually not nothing written about having too many credit cards. There is not a limit that really affects your credit for, in a sense, for having too many credit cards. So it's really about, do you pay your bills on time? Do you pay your credit cards on time? And do you keep your balances low? So, low enough where it won't impact it negatively. But rather than that, just the number of credit cards don't appear to affect your credit rating negatively. So with that said, so I guess it's this amount of how many you want to have and what you want to do with them and how do you want to use them and so on. So what I found out though, when I did have 10, which I thought was a lot, and because I think the average person probably has about 4 to 5 credit cards or something like that. I think that's around the average. But what I did find out, say if you did have a whole bunch of credit cards and you have at various banks, you got small banks, you got credit unions, you got large banks, you got a whole lot of places that can issue, a lot of institutions that can issue you a credit card. So what I found out, like when you have multiple ones and a lot of them, just say if you had only like a $5,000 limit on this one, $2,000 limit on that one, 3,000 on another one. So say they wasn't really that big of a limit on each one, and you had a whole lot of them. What can happen that a lot of people might not know is that a lot of the smaller banks over time you consolidate. Say like Chase Bank might buy a small bank, which I don't know, say Third, Fifth, or whatever, just another smaller bank. I can't think of a smaller bank offhand, but just say when they doing mergers and another bank merges with another bank. Then that credit card, they will combine the limits from one credit card into the other one. So you might have, say, if it's three small banks and they are merged into this one, and you had like 5,000 on this one, and you had three separate credit cards at 5,000 apiece, you would now have one with $15,000 on it instead of three individual cards with 5,000 on it. So a lot of people don't really know that unless you have a whole lot of cards. That is one of the things that will happen, like when different banks merge together or one bank buys another, and so on. So actually, and I think in my opinion, that's a plus because you will end up having a really high credit card that you might not have would have had at one point based on those mergers and those takeovers and stuff like that of the different banks and credit unions. So that's one thing that you can get out of doing that, and then that's it's easier to manage at that point than having so many credit cards to manage because the more credit cards you have, the harder it is to manage that. Unless you just have just credit cards, just that you just don't use for whatever reason, but I think at some point you have to use them at some point, or you might can lose that particular card. So also, I wanted to talk to you about that in terms of credit cards and everything. Is that people generally use, nowadays based on the rewards you get from credit cards. So there are some credit cards that have better rewards than others and that give you points back. You can do your research on those and get those. But if you just collecting a lot of credit cards, then I guess you can just get the ones you want and not really be focused on who has the best rates or who has the best rewards. Because let's say if you at a point where you don't have any credit cards and you want to start building your credit, then you have to go with security credit cards. That's the best way to get in the game, whether or not you got good credit, bad credit, whatever, and you just want a credit card. But I would say this is geared to people who have bad credit because you don't want to just apply for a card and you know you're not going to get. So the best way to get in the game that you know you get a card is through a security credit card and basically just send a amount of money in, which some of them start low at 250 or whatever you amount. I think the minimum maybe about $250 or something you can send in, and that based on that secured credit card, that's the amount of limit that you will have. I think they take out some type of fee, so you might end up with just having a $200 limit after you send in $250. So it's basically works like that. So let's say you got $1,000, you send them $1,000 in, you get this secured credit card, and you got $900 limit, let's say. And that's a good way to get started. And all you do is build up your credit using that one, and then you'll start get offers in the mail for other ones that are unsecured. And then at that point, once you get some offers in the mail, just apply for those, and you end up getting those based on your increased credit rating and how you have been using that secured. And sometimes you can just start out with multiple secured credit cards if you want to, where you won't just do one. And I think some of the banks well, at least one I know of that's secured is like First Premier Bank. That's one that'll do those secured credit cards. But I think most banks have some kind of built-in thing where you can get a secured credit card. But it's actually some banks that just specialize in that. So you can do your research on that. Like I said, First Premier is one, and having a hard time thinking of a second one. So, but it's an easy search. Google that, and you can find out. So, I guess what I want to move on from there is to let you know that some people don't really like using credit cards at all. Like maybe some people who listen to other financial people who advise, like sort of like Dave Ramsey advised you to not use credit cards and cut them up. So that is the approach that is good too. If you want to not use credit cards at all, and you just want to use cash, that is a lot of people. Some people do that. That some people find that difficult to do. And so they have to really work on being disciplined enough to save their money up to use cash and to eliminate using credit cards altogether. So, it's a big debate about credit cards versus not credit cards, but this particular video is really about, is there a such thing as having too many? And what I'm finding out, there is no such thing as having too many credit cards. So you can pretty much build that card deck up if you want, and just build it up, shuffle them up, have you a nice thing of cards, and you saying, and you might ask the question, how can you have 45 or more? How can you have 20 credit cards? But it's a whole lot of banks. It's just people really don't really know that a lot of the smaller banks that's out there, but you have local banks in certain cities, you have big, large institutions, you have credit unions, you have everything that you can get access to that will issue a card. And for you end up having a lot of credit cards with a lot of limits. And a lot of people use them for various things. Some people use them as repairs. They use it as to travel with, just to do the points and the rewards. And some people use them to actually, if they have real high limits, they might do some investing with it. So, you know, credit cards with the high interest rate, but if you know how to use them, or know how to use them once you have that 0% balance transfers, and know how to use that, and go from one card to another, sometimes you can use that as your benefit, and benefit from them in certain ways. So, that's, some people specialize in that. So that's up to you. But that's something I just wanted to talk about these credit cards, and just give you a tidbit on it, and something you may not know about the mergers and everything, and ending up with a high credit limit on a credit card once those banks merge and everything. So this is Q with Mixherbs.com. If you like any of his videos, just hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel, and we're going to keep them coming. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.